The bright light filled the night sky over Houston. Dr. William Carter stood outside the NASA building, his eyes wide with wonder. The alien ship hung in the air, silent and still. It was shaped like a perfect silver disk and was bigger than a football field. "It's really happening," William whispered to himself. After years of searching the stars for signs of alien life, they had come to Earth. The last 24 hours had been crazy. The ship had appeared suddenly, bypassing all Earth's detection systems. Instead of attacking, it sent a message in perfect English to every major government on Earth. "We come in peace. We wish to talk." World leaders quickly picked a team to meet the aliens. William was chosen because he was one of NASA's best scientists. He had spent his whole life studying space and possible alien life. As he walked toward the temporary meeting area set up near the landing site, William felt his heart beat faster. Security guards checked his badge and waved him through. Inside the tent, William joined Colonel Samantha Powell. She stood tall with her arms crossed, looking cautious but ready. As one of America's top military minds, she was there to assess any possible threats. "Dr. Carter," she nodded to him. "Ready to make history." "As ready as I'll ever be," William replied, fixing his glasses nervously. A tall man in a perfect suit walked over to them. "Richard Nelson," he said, shaking their hands firmly. "State Department. I'll be handling the diplomatic side of things." Before they could talk more, a soft hum filled the air. The side of the alien ship opened, and a ramp extended to the ground. 3 figures walked down slowly. They looked almost human, but not quite. They were tall and thin with pale blue skin. Their eyes were large and completely black. They moved with a strange grace, like they were floating rather than walking. The one in front wore elaborate robes with symbols that seemed to glow. It stopped a few feet away from the humans and raised a hand in greeting. "I am Ambassador Zortath of the Nelvarian species," it said in perfect English. Its voice had a musical quality. "We represent the Galactic Council, a union of over 200 advanced civilizations across this sector of the galaxy." William felt his scientific mind racing with questions. Richard stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth. I am Richard Nelson, representing the United Nations of Earth. We are honored by your visit." Zortath's expression was hard to read, but William thought he saw something like amusement in those black eyes. "We have observed your planet for many centuries," the alien said. "Your recent technological advancement has qualified Earth for consideration as a potential associate of the Galactic Council." William noticed how Zortath said "associate" rather than member. Colonel Powell noticed too, judging by her slight frown. "That's wonderful news," Richard said carefully. "We would be interested in learning more about this council." "Of course you would," Zortath said. One of the aliens behind him made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Your species is still very young. The council has existed for 50,000 of your Earth years." The way he said it made William feel like a child being patted on the head. The alien continued speaking, explaining how Earth could send representatives to petition for membership. As Zortath talked, William realized the aliens, for all their advanced technology, looked down on humans. They used words like primitive and developing species when referring to Earth. When the meeting ended and the aliens returned to their ship, Colonel Powell spoke what they were all thinking. "They think we're jokes," she said flatly. "They're just humoring us." Richard nodded slowly. "They have technology centuries beyond ours, but their attitude concerns me more than their ships." William looked up at the alien vessel hovering above them. "Then we'll just have to show them they're wrong about us," he said quietly. "Humanity has a lot more to offer than they think." None of them knew then how right he would be. The human delegation stepped off the alien transport ship onto the massive space station known as Centaurus Prime. William felt dizzy looking up at the curved ceiling that stretched so high it disappeared into mist. The journey had taken only 3 days, even though the station was located near Alpha Centauri, over 4 light years from Earth. "This is incredible," William whispered, staring at the thousands of different alien species moving through the vast central plaza. Some floated through the air, others crawled on many legs, and some looked almost human except for strange colors or extra limbs. Colonel Powell stayed alert, her hand never far from where her sidearm would normally be. The council had not allowed them to bring weapons. "Stay focused," she reminded the group. "We're not tourists. We're here to represent Earth." Richard Nelson nodded in agreement. He wore his best diplomatic face, but even he couldn't hide his amazement at the technology surrounding them. "Our guide is coming," he said quietly. A small green alien with 4 arms approached them. "Welcome to Centaurus Prime," it said in a high-pitched voice. "I am Glix, your assigned guide. The council will see you in 2 hours. Until then, I will show you to your quarters." As they followed Glix through the station, William noticed how other aliens stared at them. Some pointed, others whispered to each other, and many seemed to be laughing. "Why are they looking at us like that?" William asked Glix. The small alien blinked its large eyes. "Many have never seen humans before. Others find your species amusing." "Amusing?" Colonel Powell's voice was sharp. "Yes," Glix said simply. "Your technology is very basic compared to most council races. Your lifespans are short. Your bodies are fragile. Many find this charming, like watching a child species." William felt his face grow hot with embarrassment and anger. Richard placed a calming hand on his shoulder. "We may surprise them yet," Richard said quietly. 2 hours later, they stood before the Galactic Council in a massive chamber. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in rising tiers around a central speaking platform. The humans felt tiny in the massive space. Ambassador Zortath introduced them to the council. "These are representatives from Earth, a developing world in the Sol system. They petition for consideration as council associates." The head of the council, a massive purple-skinned alien called High Counselor Drex, looked down at them with 6 eyes. "Humans," he rumbled. "Your species has only recently discovered basic space travel. You still fight wars among yourselves. Why should the council consider you worthy of association?" Richard stepped forward. "High Counselor, humanity may be young, but we learn quickly. We have made more technological progress in the last century than in all our previous history. We seek peaceful exchange of knowledge and friendship with all species." A ripple of laughter spread through the chamber. William cringed. "Such confidence," called out one council member, a floating cloud of gas contained in a transparent bubble. "They cannot even travel faster than light on their own. Yet they speak of exchange." "They still use combustion engines and chemical rockets," another added, triggering more laughter. Colonel Powell's hands clenched into fists. William felt sick with humiliation. Only one council member did not laugh. A small, ancient-looking alien with silver skin and glowing white eyes studied them thoughtfully. This was Velamorin of the Tholian race, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. "I find their courage admirable," Velamorin said in a soft voice that somehow silenced the chamber. "They come knowing their disadvantage, yet they stand proud. That deserves respect." High Counselor Drex waved a dismissive hand. "The council has voted. Earth will be granted observational status only. This is the lowest tier of association. You may observe council proceedings but may not vote or access advanced technology." As they left the chamber, William felt crushing disappointment. Their long journey had led to public humiliation. "That's it?" he asked Richard. "We came all this way just to be laughed at?" Colonel Powell's eyes narrowed. "No," she said firmly. "This is just the beginning. If they think humans give up that easily, they don't know anything about us at all." Richard looked thoughtful. Velamorin seemed different from the others. "Perhaps we should seek an audience." William nodded slowly. "We'll show them what humans can do. They won't be laughing for long." The human delegation sat in their small assigned quarters on Centaurus Prime. The room was designed for species much taller than humans, making them feel even smaller. William paced back and forth while Richard reviewed notes on his tablet. Colonel Powell stared out the window at the countless stars. "We can't accept this," Powell said suddenly, turning to face the others. "Observational status is basically nothing. They're treating us like children." Richard sighed. "I understand your frustration, but what choice do we have? We can't force them to respect us." "Maybe we can," Powell said, her eyes lighting up with an idea. "Not with force, but with proof." William stopped pacing. "What do you mean?" "A challenge," Powell said. "Throughout human history, underdogs have proven themselves through challenges. David versus Goliath. The small proving themselves against the mighty." Richard looked doubtful. "The council won't agree to that." "They will if we appeal to their pride," Powell insisted. "They think we're amusing pets. Let's use that against them." The next day, they requested a special audience with the council. To their surprise, it was granted quickly. William suspected the council members were curious what the humans would do next. Standing again on the central platform, Colonel Powell addressed the massive chamber. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice strong and clear. "We respectfully challenge your assessment of humanity's capabilities." Murmurs spread through the chamber. "We propose a series of tests," Powell continued. "If we pass them, Earth should be granted full associate status, not merely observational." Laughter erupted around the chamber. Ambassador Zortath stepped forward. "You wish to challenge the Council's decision. How charmingly primitive," he said. "What tests do you propose, human?" "You decide," Powell replied confidently. "Choose tasks you believe would be impossible for a species at our level of development." High Counselor Drex's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "This is most unusual," he rumbled, "but also amusing." "Very well. The Council will design 3 tests. They will be challenging even for advanced species. Do you accept these terms?" "We do," Powell said without hesitation. William felt his stomach twist with worry. What had she gotten them into? The tests were announced the next day. First, a complex diplomatic negotiation simulation involving 5 hostile alien cultures. Second, a multi-dimensional mathematical problem that most council races needed computers to solve. Third, a physical endurance trial in alien environments. "Are you crazy?" William whispered to Powell as they prepared for the first test. "We can't possibly win all these." "We don't need to win by their standards," Hull said. "We just need to surprise them." The diplomatic test came first. Richard led this challenge, facing 5 alien representatives with competing demands. The Council expected humans to fail at understanding alien cultures. But Richard used something uniquely human: empathy. Rather than focusing on the specific demands, he looked for underlying needs. He found common ground between seemingly opposite positions. Within hours, he had crafted a solution that satisfied all 5 parties. The council members watched in stunned silence. For the mathematical challenge, William stepped up. The problem involved calculating dimensional rifts in 11-dimensional space, something impossible without advanced computers, or so they thought. William didn't try to solve it directly. Instead, he created a new approach, breaking the problem into smaller parts and finding patterns the aliens had overlooked. His solution wasn't perfect, but it was close enough to show incredible human ingenuity. Finally came the physical test. Powell had to cross 5 environments deadly to human life. Instead of brute force, she used careful observation and creative thinking. When faced with a gravity 6 times Earth's, she created leverage tools from available materials. In toxic atmosphere zones, she improvised filtration systems. She finished exhausted but triumphant. The council chamber was silent when the humans returned for the verdict. High Counselor Drex seemed troubled. "You have surprised us," he admitted reluctantly. "Your methods were unorthodox, but effective. The council acknowledges your accomplishment." Vila Morin, the ancient Tholian, nodded with approval. "Perhaps there is more to learn from humans than we realized." Not everyone was pleased. Many council members looked annoyed that their challenge had backfired. But rules were rules. Earth is granted provisional associate status, Drex announced. This grants you limited access to council resources and information. As they left the chamber, William couldn't help but smile. That's one small step for humanity, he whispered. Powell grinned. And one giant leap for our reputation. With their new provisional status, the humans gained access to more areas of Centaurus Prime. William spent every free moment exploring the station's scientific sections. His curiosity was endless. Each day brought new discoveries about alien technologies and sciences Earth had never imagined. One morning, William found himself in the engineering section. Unlike other areas, this place was nearly empty of people. Most systems were automated. William studied the massive power core at the center of the station with amazement. It glowed with blue-green energy, humming softly. "You should not be here, human," a voice said behind him. William turned to see a tall, thin alien with metallic skin. The name tag on its uniform identified it as Chief Engineer Zex. "I have clearance," William said, showing his provisional access card. "I'm just observing." Zex made a sound like metal scraping on metal. William realized it was laughing. "Observe all you want. You could study for 100 years and still not understand our technology." William ignored the insult and pointed to the power core. "The energy fluctuation patterns seem unusual. Is that normal?" Zex's eyes narrowed. "What would you know of quantum fluctuations? Your species still burns fossil fuels." "I know enough to see that the containment field is showing signs of strain," William said carefully. "Those pattern irregularities suggest the core isn't operating at peak efficiency." "Ridiculous," Zex snapped. "This core was designed by the greatest minds in the galaxy. It has functioned perfectly for centuries." William wanted to argue further but saw it was pointless. The engineer had already dismissed him. As he left, William couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with the power core. He decided to do some research on his own. Meanwhile, Richard Nelson was making connections of his own. Unlike William, who focused on technology, Richard studied people. He noticed how different species were treated differently on the station. Some were clearly favored, while others were barely tolerated. In a quiet corner of the station's common area, Richard met with representatives from less powerful species. There was Lena from the Ardeni people, Grok of the stone-skinned Praetorians, and Flit, who came from a species of small-winged beings called the Avali. "We appreciate you meeting with us," Lena said softly. "Few from the higher tiers bothered to speak with our kind." Richard was surprised. "Higher tiers? I thought all associate members were equal." Grok made a rumbling sound. "Equal in name only. In practice, the founding species control everything. Resources, territory, technology, all flow to them first. The council talks about unity," Flit added, wings fluttering nervously, "but the reality is very different." Richard learned that many worlds had been invited to join the council, only to have their resources exploited. Advanced technology was kept from newer members, keeping them dependent on the older races. "That's why they laughed at your challenge," Lena explained. "They never expected you to pass their tests. No new species ever has." Richard felt a chill. "They set us up to fail." "And yet you succeeded," Grok said with respect in his deep voice. "That has never happened before." As Richard gathered this troubling information, Colonel Powell was having her own discoveries. She had been granted limited access to the Council's security protocols. What she found disturbed her. Several less advanced worlds had tried to leave the Council in the past. All had suffered mysterious natural disasters shortly after. Powell recognized the pattern. It was the same one powerful nations on Earth used against smaller countries that defied them. That evening, the three humans met in their quarters to share what they had learned. "The power core is unstable," William explained, "but they won't listen to me because I'm human. And the Council isn't the peaceful federation they claim to be," Richard added. They exploit weaker worlds and keep them dependent. Powell nodded grimly. They maintain control through implied threats. It's an empire disguised as a democracy. William looked out at the seemingly peaceful station. So what do we do now? Earth is still too weak to stand against them. We use what humans have always used when facing stronger opponents, Howell said with determination. Intelligence, creativity, and unexpected alliances. We need proof of their misconduct, Richard said. Something we can show to the more ethical council members. What none of them realized was that their conversation was being listened to. And someone on the council was very worried about what these humans might discover next. 2 weeks after their discoveries, the humans attended a major council summit. Representatives from all member worlds gathered in the Great Chamber. The humans sat in the section for provisional members, far from the center of power, but with a good view of the proceedings. Look at them all, Richard whispered, scanning the thousands of different alien species. Some of them must be decent. They can't all support this corrupt system. William was about to respond when the lights flickered. A low rumble shook the chamber. Most aliens ignored it, but William sat up straight, suddenly alert. That's not normal, he said, pulling out a small device he had built to monitor the station's energy levels. The readings were off the charts. The power core. It's destabilizing. As if confirming his words, the station shook more violently. Warning alarms began to sound. The massive screens around the chamber flashed red emergency symbols. High Counselor Drex rose from his seat. Remain calm. His voice boomed across the chamber. This is a minor technical issue. Our engineers will resolve it shortly. But William knew better. He turned to Powell and Richard. The containment field is failing. If it collapses completely, the chain reaction could destroy the entire station. How long do we have? Powell asked, already standing. Minutes, maybe less, William replied. And they don't even realize how serious it is. Powell made a quick decision. Richard, try to find Villa Morin or any council member who might listen. William, you're with me. We're going to the engineering section. They rushed from the chamber as panic began to spread. The station shook more frequently now. By the time William and Powell reached engineering, chaos had erupted. Engineer Zex and his team worked frantically at control panels, their usual arrogance replaced by fear. The containment field is collapsing, one alien technician cried. The core is reaching critical mass. We cannot stabilize it. Another shouted. The automated systems are not responding. William pushed his way forward. I can help, he called to Zex. The chief engineer turned, his metallic face twisted with anger. You? This is not the time for human interference. This is exactly what I warned you about, William shouted back. Let me help or we all die. Another violent shake knocked several aliens off their feet. A support beam crashed down nearby. Zex hesitated, then nodded sharply. What do you propose? William quickly studied the control panel. Your system is too dependent on automation. We need to create a manual bypass. He turned to Powell. I need help. Find any humans on the station with engineering or physics background. Powell nodded and raced off. William turned back to the alien engineers. I need tools and access to the core's control matrix. While William worked, Richard found Villa Morin in the confusion of the Great Chamber. The humans warned us about this, the ancient Tholian said sadly. We did not listen. There's no time for regrets, Richard said. William thinks he can help, but he needs authorization to access the main systems. Villa Morin's glowing eyes narrowed. Then she removed a small medallion from her robes. This will grant highest level access. Hurry. Back in engineering, Powell returned with 4 humans who had been part of the expanded Earth delegation. Among them was engineer Kira Blake, an expert in power systems. The containment field is down to 20%. Kira reported after looking at the readings. Conventional methods won't work fast enough. Then we use unconventional methods, William said. He held up Richard's communication device, which now showed Velamorin's access medallion. "We have authorization. Let's get to work." For the next 15 minutes, the humans worked alongside the alien engineers in a desperate race against time. William's approach was radically different from Council methods. Instead of relying on complex automated systems, he created simple, direct pathways to stabilize the core. "This is primitive," Zex complained, watching William connect power conduits in ways never intended by their designers. "Sometimes primitive works when advanced fails," William replied without looking up, "like using a hammer when your laser cutter breaks down." The station gave a final, violent shake. Warning sirens reached a fever pitch. The core glowed dangerously bright. "Now," William shouted. Kira activated the bypass. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the core's glow began to dim. The shaking stopped. The alarms fell silent. "Containment field stabilizing," an alien technician reported in disbelief. "Core temperature dropping." Engineer Zex stared at the readings, then at William. "You actually did it, with primitive human methods." William wiped sweat from his forehead. Sometimes being primitive means finding simple solutions to complex problems. Word spread quickly through the station. A disaster that could have killed millions had been averted by humans. When the emergency council meeting was called an hour later, the humans were invited to sit near the center, no longer relegated to the distant provisional section. High Counselor Drex looked uncomfortable as he addressed the chamber. "Today we witnessed something unexpected. When our most advanced systems failed, it was human ingenuity that saved us all." William noticed many council members couldn't meet his eyes. Their earlier mockery had turned to embarrassed gratitude, or in some cases, resentful silence. Velamorin spoke next. "Perhaps it is time we reconsidered what we can learn from younger species. They may lack our technology, but they possess qualities we have forgotten: adaptability, creativity, and courage." As the meeting continued, Richard leaned close to Powell and William. "This changes everything," he whispered. "They can't dismiss us now." Powell nodded, a small smile on her face. "No one's laughing anymore." In the weeks following the power core crisis, everything changed for the human delegation. Once ignored, they now found themselves approached by representatives from dozens of species, seeking their insights or offering friendship. Richard made the most of this opportunity. He arranged meetings with delegations from other newer council member worlds. At first, these meetings were small and secretive. Soon, they grew larger as word spread that humans were different from other advanced species. They were willing to share knowledge rather than hoard it. In a quiet meeting room away from the main council chambers, Richard addressed representatives from 20 different worlds. "The council system is built to keep power in the hands of a select few," he told them. "But together, we can create something better, a true partnership of equals." Lena, the Ardini representative, nodded in agreement. "The humans saved the station when the most advanced council technology failed. They have proven that newer does not mean lesser." Grok, the stone-skinned Praetorian, rumbled his approval. "My world has rich mineral deposits that the council harvests while giving us little in return. Together, we might negotiate better terms." Thus was born what Richard called the Coalition of Emerging Species. The group agreed to share technology, resources, and information outside the council's control. Most importantly, they would stand together rather than allowing the council to isolate and pressure them individually. Meanwhile, William had earned unexpected respect in the scientific community. The station's engineers, once dismissive, now sought his opinion on various systems. He used this access to learn more about council technology and to secretly share it with Earth. "We're decades behind in some areas," he explained to Powell during a private moment. "But in others, we actually have advantages. Our technology evolved differently." Powell had her own project. After saving the station, she had been invited to observe council security operations. What she saw troubled her deeply. The Council maintained peace through overwhelming force rather than cooperation. Newer member worlds were kept dependent on Council protection, while contributing resources and troops. One day, a new human arrived at the station, Special Agent Olivia Martinez. She had been sent by Earth's intelligence agencies to help gather information. Her skills in investigation proved invaluable. "I've been digging through the Council's historical archives," she told the other humans during a secure meeting in their quarters. "You won't believe what I found." She displayed images of various technological devices on her tablet. These inventions came from newer member worlds. The Council took them, modified them slightly, then patented the technology as their own. The original inventors got nothing. William studied the images with growing anger. They're stealing innovations and claiming them as their own. Martinez nodded grimly. "It gets worse. Look at these." She showed records of technological breakthroughs from several worlds, followed by Council inspection reports, and then mysterious accidents that destroyed the research. "They're suppressing advanced technology from emerging worlds," Richard said slowly, "keeping us dependent, and ensuring their place at the top," Powell added. Classic empire building. Martinez had found something else. Records showing how the Council had intervened in planetary development throughout the galaxy. If a species developed too quickly, or in ways the Council didn't approve, they faced natural disasters or internal conflicts engineered by Council agents. "We need to take this to someone we can trust," William said after reviewing the evidence. "Villa Morin might help us." "It's risky," Powell cautioned. "We don't know how deep this corruption goes." Richard considered their options. "We can't keep this secret. Too many worlds are suffering. Our coalition needs this information." They decided to present their findings to select coalition members first, then approach sympathetic Council representatives. What they didn't know was that news of their coalition had already reached the highest levels of the Council. In his private chambers, High Councilor Drex met with representatives from the most powerful Council worlds. "These humans are becoming a problem," one alien said. "They ask too many questions. They make too many friends." Drex's 6 eyes blinked slowly. "Perhaps it is time to remind them of their place in the galaxy, and to show their new friends what happens to those who challenge the natural order." The others nodded in agreement. Plans were made, orders given. The Council that had once laughed at humanity was now preparing to crush it. But humanity and its allies were preparing too. The coming confrontation would change the galaxy forever. The evidence that Special Agent Martinez gathered spread quickly through the coalition of emerging species. Many representatives were angry but not surprised. They had suspected the Council's corruption for years but lacked proof. With the support of Villa Morin, Richard arranged to present their findings at the next full Council session. This was a bold move. Many coalition members feared retaliation, but the humans insisted that truth was their best weapon. "The Council has existed for 50,000 years, Villa Morin warned them. "They will not change easily." "Then we'll give them no choice," Powell replied. What the humans didn't know was that the Council was already moving against them. 3 coalition worlds suddenly faced trade embargoes for supposed regulation violations. Communications between coalition members were monitored. Several representatives reported being threatened by Council security forces. The night before the Council session, William received an urgent message from Earth. He gathered the other humans in their quarters to watch the transmission from NASA headquarters. "We've been studying the technology data you sent," the NASA director said. His image flickered on the screen. "Our scientists have made incredible progress adapting it to human systems. We've managed to reverse engineer several key components." William leaned forward excitedly. "How far have you gotten?" "Far enough to surprise our new friends," the director replied with a smile. "The prototype ships are already in production. They'll be ready within weeks, not months as we expected." This was good news. Earth had been working around the clock to strengthen its position since learning about the Council's true nature. The humans had shared everything they learned with their home world, and Earth's scientists had proven remarkably adaptable. The Council is planning something, Martins warned after the transmission ended. My sources say there's been unusual movement of their security forces. Then we need to move faster, Powell said. Richard, are the coalition members ready for tomorrow? Richard nodded, as ready as they'll ever be. The next morning, the great chamber was filled to capacity. Every council member and representative was present for what had been announced as a special address by the Earth delegation. The humans stood together on the central platform, facing the ranked tiers of alien delegates. Richard spoke first, his voice calm and measured. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, we come before you today with grave concerns about the very foundation of this institution. High Counselor Drex interrupted immediately. We have heard troubling reports of unauthorized meetings and information sharing among provisional members. Such activities violate Council protocols. We are not here to discuss protocols, Richard continued firmly. We are here to expose the truth. Agent Martinez activated a holographic display showing the evidence they had gathered. Images of suppressed technologies, records of resource exploitation, and proof of Council interference in developing worlds appeared in the air for all to see. For thousands of years, Richard said, the Council has maintained power not through wisdom or justice, but through suppression and control. New member worlds are not partners but vassals, their resources stolen, their innovations suppressed. The chamber erupted in shouts. Some council members demanded the humans be removed. Others sat in shocked silence. The coalition representatives stood in unison, showing their support for the humans. High Counselor Drex slammed his fist down, silencing the room. These accusations are unfounded. The humans have manipulated you with clever lies. Then explain this, Powell challenged. Stepping forward, she displayed images of Council ships moving toward coalition worlds. Why are Council warships currently surrounding peaceful coalition planets? Is this your response to mere lies? Drex's 6 eyes blinked rapidly. He had not expected the humans to discover the military deployment so quickly. The Council has authorized protective measures only, he insisted. Certain worlds have shown signs of instability. You mean signs of independence, William said. The only instability is in a system that cannot tolerate equality. Vilamorin rose slowly from her seat. I have served on this council for over 500 years. I have suspected what these humans have proven. We have strayed from our original purpose. We have become what we once fought against. Enough, Drex roared. This session is terminated. The coalition is hereby dissolved by emergency order. Any world supporting this human rebellion will face severe consequences. As Council security forces moved toward the platform, Powell received an urgent message on her communication device. She smiled as she read it. You might want to check your long-range sensors, Counselor, she said calmly. Earth has not been idle while we learned your secrets. On the massive chamber screens, images appeared of a human fleet approaching Centaurus Prime. The ships were unlike anything Earth had previously built, incorporating adapted Council technology with unique human innovations. We came seeking friendship, Powell said as shocked whispers filled the chamber. You gave us threats. Now you have a choice: reform or confrontation. The Council that had once laughed at humanity wasn't laughing anymore. The days following the confrontation in the Great Chamber were tense. The Council split into 2 factions, those supporting Drex and the Old Order, and those rallying behind Vilamorin and her calls for reform. The station buzzed with rumors of impending conflict. The human fleet remained in position near Centaurus Prime, neither advancing nor retreating. It was smaller than the Council's massive armada, but the ships displayed technology that surprised many Council military experts. How did they adapt our systems so quickly? One alien commander asked during an emergency security meeting. Those ships show integration of technologies that took us centuries to combine. That is the human advantage, Vilamorin said. They see connections where we see only separate paths. High Counselor Drex was unmoved. They are still vastly outnumbered. This show of force is merely a bluff. Despite his confident words, Drex ordered Council warships to the Coalition worlds that had sided with humanity. The message was clear: return to the Council, fold or face consequences. Richard worked tirelessly to maintain the Coalition's unity. We must stand together, he told representatives from worlds facing Council threats. Divided, we will fall one by one. William coordinated with Earth's fleet, helping them understand Council tactics and technology. Their ships are more advanced, he explained, but they rely on standard procedures. They lack tactical creativity. Powell put together a joint security force, combining human officers with Coalition species. They trained together, each bringing unique skills and perspectives. Where Council forces were uniform and rigid, this combined force was diverse and adaptable. When Drex's patience finally ran out, he ordered the Council fleet to move against the Coalition world of Ardenia, Lena's homeworld. It was meant to be a show of force that would frighten the other Coalition worlds back into submission. What happened instead shocked the galaxy. The human fleet, joined by ships from other Coalition worlds, arrived at Ardenia before the Council forces. They formed a defensive perimeter that the Council commander found difficult to analyze. Their formation followed no known tactical pattern. "This is Captain Alan Rogers of the Earth vessel Defiance," came the transmission to the Council fleet. "We stand with our Ardenian allies. Any hostile action will be met with proportional response." The Council commander followed standard procedure, sending his fastest ships to break through the human line, while his heavy cruisers prepared to deliver a crushing blow. But the human ships didn't react as expected. Instead of meeting force with force, they used the Council ships' momentum against them, leading them into carefully planned crossfires. The Coalition ships worked in perfect coordination, each species' vessels using their unique capabilities as part of a unified strategy. When the battle ended, the Council fleet retreated, having lost 12 ships while destroying only 3 Coalition vessels. News of the Council's defeat spread rapidly. More worlds declared their support for the Coalition. Even on Centaurus Prime, many Council members now openly questioned Drex's leadership. Villamorin called for an emergency vote. "We stand at a crossroads," she told the assembled representatives. "Continue down a path of corruption and control, or return to our original purpose, mutual benefit and shared wisdom." The vote was close, but in the end, Drex was removed from power. Villamorin became the interim High Counselor. Her first act was to invite the humans and Coalition representatives to help draft a new Council charter. 1 year later, the Galactic Confederation was established, replacing the old Council. Unlike its predecessor, the Confederation gave equal representation to all member worlds, regardless of their technological advancement. William Carter headed a new multi-species scientific exchange program. "We advance faster when we share knowledge freely," he said at the opening ceremony. Colonel Powell trained the Confederation's Joint Security Force, teaching them to value diversity of thought and approach. "Our difference is our strength," she told her officers. Richard Nelson became Earth's first full ambassador to the Confederation. In his acceptance speech, he reminded everyone how far they had come. "The journey from mockery to respect is not easy, but it is necessary. We have proven that age does not equal wisdom, and that technology alone does not create civilization." The station, once called Centaurus Prime, was renamed Unity Station. In its central plaza, a monument was erected with words in hundreds of languages. The English version read, "Different paths, one journey. Many voices, one future." The species that once laughed at humanity now looked to them as leaders and partners. Earth ships traveled to distant stars, not as conquerors but as explorers and friends. And when new species were discovered, young races taking their first steps into the stars, they were not met with mockery but with respect and a hand of friendship. The human way.